Daytona. When you emerge from the tunnels to the infield, then look back at the gargantuan grandstand and the massive 31-degree banking, it tends to bring on a sense of, well, awe. To quickly put the size of the place into perspective, in building that grandstand, the architects and construction crews had to literally account for the very curvature of the earth. Tonight we race on the famed Roval, home to the Daytona 24 Hours. Not technical or challenging from a driving perspective, but in the full send sim Spec Miatas, it morphs into a massive game of high-speed chess. It's all about drafting, knowing where to be and when, and, drafting. Welcome to round wait, did I mention there's a lot of drafting? Okay, good. Welcome to round 7 of the second season of the 2024 Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship. Hi, folks. I'm Greg Creamer, joined as always by Kyle Heyer. And Kyle, I'm kind of curious as to what you think we might be seeing a lot of tonight.
Drafting, probably. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, Greg. This is a very, very fast place. Long straightaways, tight hairpin corners in the infield, but it's all about getting back around to the infield and having your passing opportunities there into the bus stop. But again, the draft, it's the topic of discussion all night long. It will be the entire time. It's pack racing, Miata style. Everybody's excited when they see the Miatas climb up on the banks, Greg, because it's going to be a close race. It's going to be a tough race, and finding your teammates on course is going to be as important as getting to the finish tonight.
That's going to be hugely critical. And the other side of the coin is we've seen Nicholas Rice-Budo go it alone here for a lot of the races so far. Here, that might have a bigger effect than anywhere else that we race at, I think.
Absolutely. If you're a lone soldier tonight, you've got a big head of steam ahead of you. You got a lot of work to do this evening. Finding buddies that maybe you're not necessarily teammates with, but friends with, that'll be useful, but also track knowledge here. If you can be quick enough on your own, you can kind of sling your way between different groups and find your way up through the course here, Greg. But this is a 3-mile racetrack. The VMAX is really, really high, but there is a lot of technicality to the infield that we should talk about as well.
Yeah, you've got the two horseshoes, and each one of them drive rather differently, but of course you've got that crucial turn 1 that really is quite tricky as you come down off the banking, and it's only 11 degrees on the front straight, but you do come off of it, and it just falls away for an instance there. That little flick through 2, that little right-left isn't too bad, but then turn 3 and turn 5, Kyle, those hairpins, the horseshoes as they are called, drive a little differently, and these cars, that infield kink should be just flat.
It's easy flat in these cars for sure, but the braking zones, it'll be a lunge and a dive every time into there. Then, of course, you head back out onto turn 6 and 7, climb up onto the NASCAR banks, and your next passing opportunity is that chicane on the backstretch, the bus stop, the Lamaze chicane as they call it now, turns 10 and 11. That's a passing opportunity, but if you don't get it done before then, you're in trouble because you cannot go through there quickly side by side. Good news is you got about another half mile until you get back to the start-finish, which, Greg, I think that's where we're going to see the most exciting parts of these races is that last 100 yards to the finish line.
Absolutely, and it all starts with that drive out of that Lamaze chicane or the bus stop. And if you get a really good run through there, you can really attach yourself to somebody coming out. If you botch it a little bit, you can lose the draft just that fast. So that's really an absolutely crucial corner here, and it's just one of the more exciting parts of any racetrack. The bus stop, as it's been known for years now, the Lamaze chicane, is just a great piece of racetrack here. And here you see coming through that final, the exit of what would be Speedway 4, if you will, and then down through the dogleg onto the front straight. And that banking is nowhere near the 31 degrees, but it's enough that if you drop your tires, I think, Kyle, underneath that double yellow line where it flattens out very abruptly, if you're getting a bump through there, a bump draft during the race, it can set you flying sideways. And that brings up a really important point. Very important rule here. If you get caught bump drafting in qualifying, that lap and the next one, I think, or the previous one of the two, are gone.
Yeah, you cannot lock bumpers or touch it really in any way. There is a very delicate way to do bump drafting where you can avoid that 0x that we always talk about in iRacing's incident system. Slight contacts are a 0, major contacts are a 4, but any notification invalidates your lap here. So you can really only do a little bit of slingshotting, and if you're really careful, you might be able to get the slightest of touches, but it's just going to be so challenging. I don't think you're going to even try to do that here. But lap time's about 2:17.7 is the quickest we've seen. Olivier Piatek, Greg, right on top. Pretty good field here, over 30 cars tonight. I think it was last season or the season before, we had a car barrel roll through that front straightaway that you just talked about, getting caught down on that apron and getting tagged into the grass. If you turn sideways into that grass at 130 miles an hour, game over.
Yeah, it was absolutely spectacular. I think we kind of deemed it the record for the most barrel rolls that we had seen in this series, certainly. And the other guy to keep an eye on here, Owen Watts, who's back in the order a little bit now in this early part of qualifying at 10th, but he ended up on top after that practice session. This is only his second race with us, but very accomplished, very fast, and he's one of those guys that I think is going to be a real interloper here. Ethan Lampe there sitting in sixth spot, the 159. He too proved very, very fast when he was with us at Daytona. So there's some guys out there that can make some big differences.
And he will come to a stop. We'll try again to go quicker. About 24 of our 30 or so entries have put down a lap time, but there's a lot of time distance between 24th and 1st, so I don't think all of those are representative. Piatek is going back out again for a second run. Kevin Hibbett is resetting, and I think you'll see what we call in the iRacing world a pit party every couple minutes here. Everyone returns to the pit lane to go back out as a group, and that way you can guarantee a bit of draft.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want. You can see that really wide line there, somebody just getting it a little too hot into turn one. So easy to do, and it just really, really nulls your exit speed there, and it can be problematic. Piatek right now up by over 0.2 of a second, which is awfully big. But watch what happened here. It looks like he just missed his downshift going in there, Kyle, and then he just floated out way wide.
And it's a good point to mention the downshifting here. You're using your old-fashioned three-pedal heel toe. The turn one braking zone, I have to say, is one of the most challenging that I've experienced in the entire iRacing service, especially in really fast cars. It's a bit easier in these Miatas because the braking distance is shorter, but it gets busy here. The track kinks to the left the whole time. You enter the corner, you turn in at full speed, and then you're on the brakes, then you're downshifting, and then the turn one apex, to get close to it, there's a tire bundle right to the inside where that pit wall is. And there's no curb on the inside. It's a very tricky corner to get right, especially in a pack of cars. You can gain a lot, you can lose a lot down there at turn one.
Absolutely. It's a really crucial piece of racetrack. And then, let's throw in maybe trying to make a pass on somebody down there. And if you get to the inside, but now you've tightened your entry up and then you float wide once you get by them, they check up, go right back underneath, and you're side by side through that little right-left flick at turn two. So there's lots that can unfold in just that piece of track. And you are coming from the highest trap speed you're going to have. It's quick coming in here to the bus stop into the Le Mans chicane, but it's really fast heading down there into turn one.
Straight lining is as best you can. Rowan Gill got it wrong and into the tires. He will go 120 mile an hour corner entry there. Wanted to give a unique perspective here. Well, maybe not Nicholson because he's heading down towards turn one, but the gyro cam here, giving you an idea of what that 31 degrees of banking feels like when it straightens back out.
Yeah, it's just immense, isn't it? And you come through that and you can see the rotation as that banking drops, and it's still 11 degrees of banking, but it feels bone flat after you've been up there at 31 degrees here. Going to see a lot of this, three abreast as they come to the line when we get to racing here. And even in qualifying, if you got a nice toe, you're going to try and pop out. And here you can see guys that thought, all right, I just got a nice lap in, I'm just going to bail. And here is Beans giving us the great shots of that heel and toe you were talking about. Old school racing. And you got to nail it here. Oh, got a really nice drive there.
Oh, he's up on top of somebody.
Wow. That's the 931. He crawled right up on top. That was absolutely crazy.
Maybe that's something we should mention also, Greg, with how fast you're going. Things happen much quicker, and when things go wrong at Daytona, they tend to go wrong in a big way.
Yep, exactly. And, one of those things, now watch right there, that right front tire got to the other guy's right front tire, and those two bits of rubber just meet, and it just turns into a launching ramp. And that's so easy to happen here because, that guy, that was Adrian Hans, and he's going to have his eyes way up at that point through the exit of that bus stop. And, we've talked about it on and off before about presentation and making sure that they know you're there. At that point, he's not checking his mirrors. He's just trying to get through the exit of that turn. So sometimes you got to pick your spots.
Morgan Burkhardt does not have a lap time set on the board right now. He works his way through the Le Mans chicane and sets back up for a lap time here. This is his third attempt at a lap, though, so it's not like he hasn't had a try. He just got a 1X off track, which is really easy to get at the exit of the bus stop, by the way. Of all the places to get 1Xs and off tracks in iRacing, The bus stop is probably one of the easiest on the exit there, as the curb is pretty narrow and the racing line takes you very close to the edge of the road. So it's a frustrating one when you're trying to get a quick lap in qualifying.
Yeah, and of course you're trying to straighten that exit out as much as you can, so you're going to push that envelope a little bit. And then if the car just sort of walks on you a little bit, you find yourself suddenly, as you said, straddling that here. Piatek hanging on with that great lap, 2/10 clear of Camden Hibbett. Rowan Gill only 20 milliseconds adrift of Hibbett here. And Burkhardt says, oh, I'm going to try it one more time. Running out of time here.
Well, he's out of time. He is out of time.
He's not going to make it.
And his lap time that he just ran, it was an invalid time. He had gone off track, but a 2:17.8 would have put him second on the board had it counted. Camden Hibbett.
That's brutal. Oh.
To the top.
Yeah, what a lap by Camden right at the end here. 2:17.5. Looked like he got maybe a nice little bit of toe here. Camden has just been mega impressive right now. You know, and I was looking at the points at the last race. He lost the point lead by 4 to Morgan Burkhardt. But Camden, his average start is 1.9, so call it 2. His average finish is 2. Nobody is close to that. And he's by far and away got the best average rating of people competing in this series. He just has really found his groove, hasn't he?
Yeah, he had. It said average start 1.8.
1.9.
Or 1. Yeah. That means his qualifying has just been exceptional. And the higher up you qualify, the easier it is to race well because you don't have to pass that many cars. Look at this 3 wide.
Look at this. 3 wide, and Piatek just threaded the needle there, splitting those two guys. And then obviously it forced him a little off. And Camden, and then he got, wow, that was a big hit.
Yep. And that'll be, so that we're learning about how things are going to go tonight, I think. If you go 3 wide into 6. I think
you're right.
Things can go wrong, but Camden Hibbett running very well. Rowan Gill P3, Josh Soto P4, and Nathan Nicholson running 5th. Now, Road Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, we had a lot of these drivers running up towards the front, and a handful of them just did not have the days they were hoping for. Watkins Glen was thrilling. We had some very intense elbows out racing there, Greg, but I'm anticipating some more of the same tonight at Daytona.
I don't think there's any question of that. It's, you know, with this drafting that you're going to have to do, forcing your way through sometimes to stick with the guy you want to draft with, all of these things will come into play. Track temp pushing 120 there, warm, and the air temp is relatively warm as well. So we'll see how that plays out. You know, before we get into this first race, I should really say a big thanks to our title sponsor, Full Send Sims, and Court Schmidt and all the work he does here. We've talked about some of the other stuff, but I wanted to pass along here that along with this obviously being a little bit of a marketing exercise, you know, let people know about how good these sims are, and they are extraordinary. The other reason that he created this league has been to foster driver education and really create an as real-to-life racing experience as is possible in the virtual world, and that's where that practice makes podium slogan comes in. And it's a really crucial deal. And putting up some pretty good prizes this year. Again, first place in terms of the gear is this Sabel GT Pad race seat. That's pretty extraordinary. Second place, a SimLab XP1 pedal set. Third place, iFlag LED flag box. And again, remember, you don't have to necessarily win the championship. You'll get a trophy. But if somebody in front of you has already won in the same calendar year, is an administrator, instructor, whatever, they're not eligible. So keep after it. Also want to, of course, welcome FARA, the Formula and Automobile Racing Association, our newest sponsor coming on. They provide the most accessible road racing series for spectators with no ticket cost, and it's all just a minor parking fee. It's just extraordinary what they're doing. And they provide those spectators a highly diverse variety of cars, including GT prototypes, Formula cars, and the new Pro Spec Miata series, which has just been phenomenal. And if you can't make it, every one of the races is streamed as well, so you can tune in and watch it from afar if needs be. And then we've got some sponsors that have been with us from the very get-go. 3P Logistics, Frank Rodriguez and that team. Race car storage, maintenance, repair, transportation. Check them out. Info at 3P-logistics.com. And Final Turn Motorsports with Rob Greenwood. They do driver development, licensing all the way to the pro level, and will do full service prep, trackside support. Check them out at Final Turn Motorsports at Gmail. And then, of course, Wine Country Motorsports, the largest combined inventory of premium race gear brands in the country, paired with the best customer service in the business. That's why they are on top all the time.
Well, we got a very short pace lap here. We start on the back straightaway now. So the starting order is on your left. Camden, Hibbett, Piatek, Gill, and Soto make up your front two rows. We get to racing pretty quickly here, Greg. Tires and brakes maybe not fully up to temperature. And also, that's something to keep in mind. Can you keep the brakes at temperature with so long between major applications? That's something to consider in a long race, or I guess long race for these cars at this racetrack. That'll be fun to watch.
It will be, and I think that's a really, really good point. You know, another guy I think to watch here is Giancarlo Schooler. Had a great qualifying in 6th, and Kurt Schmidt qualified 11th, one of his best qualies. Let's see how it plays out here at Daytona, and we're green! Down to the inside, Camden Hibbett from the pole. As they cross the line, Piatek showed for just a second to be in front, and here we go. This big pack streaming down into turn 1. Oh, and a big almost flip. In the background, another car coming together. More cars caught up. Oh boy, it's Daytona, and early on we had the big one.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars down there that are wrecked. The 33 has got huge damage on the right front. That's Kurt Schmidt.
His best qualifying in 11th, and it's gone.
Yeah, just like that. And Lampy's around at the horseshoe here, so he's going to drop some spots. No damage to speak of, but elbows out here early.
Well, you had said you thought you were going to see that, and you were spot on here. And here we go now through that high-speed kink. Absolutely flat, Chad. Easy to go through that, I think, side by side. Maybe not comfortable, but you can certainly do it here. But Hibbett now has solidified his hold. And I think that was Gill having a big tank slapper there and hanging on to it. That was the 195 in Nicholson right there. So he was able to hang on to it. But look at that decisive dive to the inside by Giancarlo Schooler.
Yeah, just went over to cover off any maneuver from the 195 and jumped right in line ahead of Nicholson and Beans Forster. We're going to climb the banking for the first time. We'll go back and look at that start collision a bit later. Here's Jose de las Casas and Aaron Johnson, who's a name that's very familiar with Miata racing and here at Daytona.
It certainly is, and great to have him with us and doing a really nice job here as well in that number 124. Beautiful black livery on that machine. Up against the wall as we head in to the chicane, and the Le Mans chicane as they call it now. That top group of 4 kind of settled. Now everybody else at some point, tough as you said to go through here side by side. At some point you've got to just say, all right, I got to give that run up.
Just like the Watkins Glen bus stop, it's a place that you have to race to, not through. Otherwise it'll slow you way, way down.
Yeah, it's a really good way to describe it. And, you know, Johnson and Jose de las Casas, 8th and 9th. So with all of that mess down in turn 1, they were able to sneak through, and now they're running in a really solid position here. Meanwhile, you can see Schooler and Nicholson trying to team up a little bit, catch this group of 4 up at the front here. And now it didn't take long. Here comes Gill dropping low. And, boy, he just shot by everybody there. Look at Piatek way out wide.
Gill's wide. Gill's drove in there too deep. Yeah, just took that opportunity, took the lead away, but then was on the brakes too late. I think Trace Hance is off in the background. And now that whole top 4 is all shuffled again. And they kind of landed exactly where they were, except they passed each other about 3 times since the front straightaway.
Yeah, and with all that going on, that just gave Camden Hibbett almost a second margin here. With it, you know, but that's what you're talking about, people. If there's somebody you want to run with in particular, I think you're going to, like you said, take some risks at points to be able to lock into somebody here. How about this? 27th is where he started.
And he's up, what, 14 spots, and he has more right off the windshield here. Managed to get through all that early chaos, and that was probably just because he was picking his way through that like Lightning McQueen in the first Cars movie, just watching all the cars bounce off each other, and through he goes to the outside at turn 6. That's a tough move to make stick.
Yeah, it is, and if the guy on the inside watches a little wide, I think that's Trace Hance. He did a nice job, and actually I thought he was a little bit nicer than he had to be, and it really gave Morgan a pretty good run here. But now Trace is banking on the 20 there of Deacon Greenfield coming up underneath and giving him a little push and keeping him up in front at this point.
And Deacon's going to go with the 40.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier, maybe not teammates, but if you've got drivers that you trust or drivers that you're familiar with around you, you can leverage them, and Deacon's going to drive up to the outside. He's going to give Morgan a tap into the bus stop. That was kind of sketchy, but they got it all woed down.
Yeah, Morgan doing a nice job of being able to just hang on to it, keep that wheel straight until he could make sure he had it under control. And, here's the thing, and I mean, there's a lot of great drivers in this, but Morgan being a 3-time champion, if you see the number 40, one of the cars that are side by side with somebody else, odds are you're going to go with 40, aren't you?
Yeah, I would say so. Seems like the smart choice to pick. And while they battle for position, Morgan's going to split the difference here. It's getting exciting at the front as well because Piatek is chasing Hibbett, and Gill and Soto are side by side for third.
Yeah, Nicholson, right into that mix as well. And now they're side by side through one. Soto in a tough spot here. And you've got to make sure that those guys next to you just give you that little bit of a big wobble there by Soto, as I think he and Nicholson just had a little bit of a touch. They both saved it. But, I mean, look at this now. This is a darn near a 9-car pack for the lead because of that jousting at the front.
Yeah, and the drafting that we talked about as well. That big jump that we saw through the little chicane there, one of the things we didn't talk about a lot at the beginning of the show is this track also got those new 3D curbs. Now, it's not as big of a deal as it was at Watkins Glen, but more of an obstacle than they have been in the past. And Schooler, once again, lane change late in the zone, into the braking zone for the horseshoe there, and drops into fifth.
Yeah, that was abrupt, and it gave Beans an opportunity because it kind of caught Soto out just a little bit. But Soto now, that red car with the black hood, he's got that inside line, and Beans is the one who's going to have to just sort of round him up on the exit here, and everybody playing nicely at this point. Jenson doing a really nice job here, just right at the back, sitting in 8th, watching what's playing out in front. He's going to get a nice double toe here. Let's see where he goes.
And he doesn't really frequent this car very much, or at least this league with this setup, so I think there's still some learning going on here, but I think once he kind of figures it out and does all the calculations, what he needs to do, he's going to be a threat. Gives a shot to the 77, pulls even with Forster into the Le Mans chicane.
And just if you're keeping track, Burkhardt is now up into 10th as these guys whistle through side by side, giving it a go here. And there you can see Janson had to give it up, and just had to, and still ran wide. That was close, and now he's got Hayden Manis just glued to his rear deck, the white hood with that gray side, and here comes Morgan.
Yeah, to the outside here. Morgan is on a mission here. Didn't get the qualifying effort that he was hoping for, and he tried 4 times to get a decent lap, but none were valid, so he is making up for lost time now.
And if you ever wonder about Morgan's skill set, just think of what he did at the Glen last Tuesday, when at one point he had a terrible race, ended up with a penalty, was way back in the field, came through to win it in a spec series like this. That's extraordinary. And look at this battling now. Gill working the outside and has himself up into second. Nicholson and Piatek are absolutely all 3 wide. And Gill going around, and that is going to absolutely mess up Nicholson as well.
Yeah, they just, too many cars in too small of a space there.
Yeah.
And they're going to both get back rolling. I think they don't have too much damage to continue, but from high above, watch this. This is just a squeeze here, and Gill not leaving quite enough space for all 3 cars there, but it's hard to judge that.
Well, I was going to say for Gill, he may have had no clue that Piatek was inside of Nicholson there. And so gave enough room for 1 car, which was there, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, they got away. I mean, the damage there isn't helpful, but I don't think it's going to be catastrophic. That Nicholson's back to 9th, and Rowan Gill down to 17th. So it hurt Gill more than it did Nicholson, but the damage is going to make that a pretty miserable drive with all that that drag on the front bumper.
Yeah, and we've been hearing with this new damage model and the various different suspension of scenarios that are affected by it, that you get that little bit of a wrinkle on that front end, and a lot of drivers have said it really does affect the draft. It doesn't look like it would, but it's apparently just enough, isn't it?
Yeah, Hibbett and Piatek trying to do their best to separate from the rest of the field. They would like to do this duel on their own and not have any outside forces, but that draft bridge, like I talked about at Road Atlanta, it's Giancarlo Schooler. He's within drafting distance of Piatek, and Soto is within drafting distance of him, so he might be the key to realigning this front pack again.
Yeah, and then Janson and then Burkhardt there in the 6th spot, and this is where you talked about it. It's now bridging that big chunk of time here. You look at where Burkhardt is. He's about just about 0.8 of a second adrift to Soto, who's a half second adrift to Schooler. And one, you use that bridge that you're talking about, but two, you just hope somebody makes a little mistake somewhere and just makes it a little bit easier to come back. And Beans Forrester now is right on the back of Burkhardt at this stage, and these guys have raced each other a lot for a long time.
They have, and I think the only thing that they should be concerned about if they want to win this race is that Hibbett and Piatek are now 1.2 seconds clear. There's been trouble at turn 1. I think Jose de las Casas got shuffled a bit wide. Here's what happened. Whoop, just got in really hot, and a little contact there.
Yeah. Now was able to save it, but
this little scrap back here. This is a big group of cars from about 9th or 10th on back. Trace Hans, Ethan Lampe, and more.
Yeah, and Lampe we know is fast. There's Nicholson trying to recover as well from his big moment and just diving up the inside. And this is going to be fun because we know Ethan Lampe's fast. We certainly know Trace is right up there. And I think one of the more impressive guys this season has been Wozencroft there in that number 80.
Yeah, really a nice season for him. He's had some real pace in a couple of races. Think back to Road Atlanta. He did get caught up in a wreck from what I recall, but he was running extremely well until then. And moving up nicely right now, looking at 11th from Trace Hans. Well, we got a moment. Let's go way back to the start of the race and see if we can pick out what exactly tripped off the multi-car accident, because it felt like there was a handful of them right there.
Yep.
And it was Wan Shi Lin that got up on the door. And just a lot of things happening at once, but here's another look at it. Woo. I think it was Friedhofer that was spinning in the middle.
Yep, and I think, because that contact broke his right rear and left him no option, and then everybody else got caught up.
Oh, yeah, you see that right rear tire just dangling, and then Court gets tagged, and then he gets drilled right here by the 22.
Oh. Yeah, and it's a parking lot.
Yeah, that car wasn't going anywhere after that. All the while, Camden Hibbett, Piatek, now their lead is 0.9, so 0.3 of a second gained by Schooler, and Soto has caught up to him. Yeah, he is coming.
Yep, and if Soto gets there, those two guys could really do something. And, not far behind them is Burkhardt, so that's going to be, and there goes Burkhardt diving down underneath Soto. Trying to. Soto's just going to roll a little bit more speed, wider line through there. Burkhardt's going to try and cut back underneath, but it's just, if you run that little wider line and you don't, there's a certain, it's a point of diminishing returns, that if you just straddle that, you can really roll some speed through that corner. And he seems to have done that.
These horseshoe corners are pretty challenging as well. They're long turns with a couple different ways to approach them, especially this one on the far end here. A pretty challenging sequence of corners because, again, the braking in a straight line takes you pretty far from where you want to be for turn-in at times. So look at Morgan. He's going to tuck underneath here under Soto and take that earlier apex and stay stuck down to the curb. And he's going to get this pass done, but I think Soto, I thought he might try to keep the overlap, but he tucked in behind. But P5 now for Soto, P4 for Burkhardt after starting tail of the field.
Yeah, that's the West Horseshoe, and actually the way that if you're not racing somebody who's trying to overtake you, you actually just sort of come out of the kink and almost straight line right to the inside of that, then let it arc out and sort of diamond the corner. But obviously, if you do that, and when you do the arc out a little bit, the guy who's chasing you can square up underneath. So that doesn't play out so well. But this is going to get interesting because now we've got traffic that's going to play a role. And Schooler, he's within a half second now. He is coming quickly with Burkhardt and Soto not far adrift.
Yeah, as soon as he gets there, as soon as Schooler gets up to these front two, all bets are off because him and Piatek were working together. But Schooler has not really shown a lot of signs of wanting to just kind of play the game here. I think he'd rather just race. And with 6 minutes to go, Greg, this is going to be 3 laps to go this time by. So you're running out of opportunities. And as we've seen at Daytona, you can wait pretty late, but you have to be close enough to strike. And Schooler isn't quite there yet, but he's getting close.
Yeah, he's closing in a big hurry. And the thing is if he decides to make a move on one of these guys up front, you can be guaranteed Burkhardt and Soto are going to be on top of this pack in a huge hurry as well. And I think you're right, Schooler, we saw him make some really aggressive surprise moves. So I think he's feeling really racy today. And he's going to try and work this outside, see if he can pin Piatek to the inside. Piatek has none of that.
Whoa! Soto
moment.
going for a
Saves
ride.
it.
Holy cow. Drop the tires off the edge of those curbs. They're a lot taller than they used to be. And he'll tuck back into 5th, but that was an exciting moment. And then Jinsone and Forster behind 6th and 7th, all still in the conversation here. But Burkhardt is there.
Yeah, Burkhardt now, he doesn't have to worry about Soto on his 6. He could just, sort of figuratively tilt the mirrors down and get after this pack here. And he's closing it up in a big, big hurry. And the one thing that just impresses me about Morgan, we were talking about track temps in the 120s, maybe more now. He has to come from the 122. He has to come from the back of the pack, and yet somehow still manages to save his tires a bit.
Yeah, really easy to burn him up like this, running wide and just powering through it, letting the front tires just corner but scrub. It's so easy to do at Daytona because there's really no camber in any of these corners. They're very flat. And so, the slow speeds are still doing 50, 60 miles an hour into them. And very easy to get understeer and just light the front tires up. But 4.5 minutes to go. Clouds have come over the speedway now. And it's at least 3 cars in this race, but Morgan is a perfect spot. If he just sits back here for this straightaway and the next one, he'll be right in contention with 2 laps to go.
Ooh, and then you see Schooler doing that, and look how much it just let Morgan with that double toe when they went side by side. He just closed up more than half the deficit he had. He is officially, I think, there now. And then it's a good now 2 seconds back to Soto. So it's a quartet going after it here.
On to the NASCAR banking, coming to 2 laps to go. And it's been a lot of cooperation between Hibbett and Piatek. All that cooperation is going to end about here, 2 laps from now, about 500 yards from the finish. All bets are off and nobody's your friend.
Yeah, and at this point, you've just got to be disciplined, because if you try and make something happen, if Piatek tries something, Schooler and Burkhardt are just going to pounce. And Schooler looking to do that anyway. Got a big shove from Burkhardt. Look at this! Does he hold on to it? Piatek squares underneath, and it was Hibbett who got absolutely squeezed offline, 1st to 4th, just like that. That
was wild. I don't remember what order they were going into the corner, but they're certainly not in the same one now. And Burkhardt the 2nd through all of that.
Yeah, he just saw Giancarlo going and just said, go. I'm going to watch how this plays out. And Hibbett got led going in, got squeezed on the outside. And that was that. And wow, absolutely a phenomenal attempt by Giancarlo Schooler, but a beautiful read by Piatek and Burkhardt.
Death taxes and Morgan Burkhardt fighting for the lead with 2 laps to go. Well, I mean, just where did he come from? This entire race, we were following his climb, but in that moment, someone just lit the fuse, and out through the smoke comes Morgan Burkhardt into 2nd place. And then now Piatek has got to make that Miata real wide the next lap and a half.
Yep, and this is what he did before. Yeah, he just let it really float out there. And maybe it gave him just a smidge here, but that's, of course, going to close up in a big hurry. And now, what do you do here at this point, Kyle? If you're Burkhardt, if you're Giancarlo Schooler, and you're going to run up on the back here, there's still going to be a lap to go here. Do you just have to lay back, or do you think, I'm going to go for it? I think Schooler, we know what he's doing.
Well, Schooler's going to go for it. Burkhardt has been here enough times. He's going to let Camden go, too. Here comes Schooler for the lead into the bus stop. He's not waiting for anybody, and he would rather be in command and call the shots from the point. Now, the thing about Daytona, this bus stop, it's going to get real chess match here next time by, because everyone knows if you leave a gap, it's game over. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So the trick is to basically hold everybody up, stop in the middle of the corner and balk everybody. But, that strategy is known also. So who is going to have the most creative moves up their sleeve? This is what's so fun about racing at Daytona.
And the other side of it is if you're given a bump draft, you've got to be careful, because as you're turning, it's easy to get that car in front loose and turn him. White flag comes out, 1 to go. 4 cars going for the podiums. Good 3-car battle behind them, and they fan out here. Piatek going to try that outside move. And now I wonder if he's trying to sell the dummy. He wanted to square up underneath, and Giancarlo said, yeah, no, I got that covered, bud.
Didn't catch him, but here comes Camden with a big run out of turn 1. Where does he go with it? Will he have a look into the International Horseshoe or wait for a better opportunity? The answer is the latter. And Burkhardt sitting there in 4th. He might choose to run up with Hibbett past these front 2 coming back to the checkers.
This is going to be great. This is all strategy right now. Like I said at the top, where and when are you going to make your move? Where do you want to be? When do you want to go for it here? And it's all positioning probably out of that bus stop. But Piatek decides, I'm going to show the nose here. He's going to try and square, get up underneath Giancarlo. He's got a little bit of overlap, but I don't think it's enough, Kyle.
I wouldn't take that overlap to the right there because it exposes you into turn 6. And Burkhardt up the inside for third place, trying to position himself for the last run of the checkers.
Yeah, I think maybe, we've talked about this so many times here. We think you want to be third coming out of the bus stop, don't you?
I would say so. I want to be anywhere where I have enough room to build a gap, but not so far back I'm not going to get there, right? It's all about the run to the line from the bus stop. And that's why if you overslow the inner loop or the Le Mans chicane, it can really block everybody behind you. But these guys, again, are smart enough to know that's coming. Piatek's going to chase Schooler all over the road on the back straightaway.
And look behind them now. Johnson, Soto, Forster, they're all there as well. This is a huge pack now. Giancarlo leads into the bus stop, last lap. What happens on the exit? It's all about getting the drive.
Where did Johnson come from?
I know. Well, when those guys were dueling up front, he obviously got it done. And I still think Burkhardt got out of that bus stop incredibly well, but I think he's going to get trapped here. I don't know that he's got an escape route.
Here we go. It'll be a drag race back to the checkers. 3 on the inside, 2 on the outside. Make it 3. It's 3 cars on each lane. They're going to go 3 wide. Piatek's going to kill the run in that middle, and here comes Camden Hibbett. And where does Johnson go, Greg?
Johnson looks to the outside. Look at this. It is going to be an absolute side-by-side duel, and Hibbett with the win in 50 milliseconds. Clear. Johnson started that last lap in 5th.
That was incredible. I thought he might have something for the lead there at the end.
I did too.
That was cool. Let's go back and have a look at that last 20 seconds or so because it was just spectacular. Well, right here, Piatek, he pulls out a line that just kills the run that Schooler has. Schooler crossed the line, still in 3rd somehow, but look at this from Johnson. He tried.
Yeah, Soto tried to go with Johnson, but it was Johnson that gave Hibbett enough of that push draft to bring him the win. He is now tops on Camden Hibbett's Christmas card list.
And between Morgan Burkhardt and Piatek, 8 1/1000ths of a second between those two.
Look at that. I mean, let's take a look. The top 5 covered by 0.2 of a second.
That's cool. That's what Daytona's all about, right? I mean, that's what we come here to do. You know, this is the kind of racing this racetrack gives you. Everybody knows it, and honestly, everybody likes it.
yeah, and it's just fascinating. And for us, I mean, it's such a treat to be able to call it for everybody watching on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed that one. Nice thing about the way this series is structured, we get another one here coming up in just a short moment here. Nathan Nicholson did a nice job to fight his way back into the top 10. Ethan Lampe, who was well back early on, fought his way up into 8th. Hayden Manis continuing to impress there in 9th, Kyle.
Yeah, nice recoveries for those drivers for sure. And then down the order here, some that got caught up in some early collisions or didn't have the race that they were hoping for, but some other packs that had some good racing. Dave Brown and Gareth Nyland only 0.2 apart at the finish. Some other drivers kind of on their own, but here's the list of those that would like another go. Rich Green is one of them, Court Schmidt, Wan Shi Lin, all just caught up in the first 500 yards.
Yeah, and for Court, you just hated qualified 11th. I think one of, if not, his best qualifying ever. Owen Watts, who was super fast in practice and qualifying, having that incident as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is all going to play out in this second race. And how do you do anything differently there, with that pack up front? I mean, we saw it. 4 cars looked like it was going to be managed. One person decides to do something. 5th, 6th, and 7th pounds. I mean, how do you plan for that?
I don't know that you can. I think what I saw was a lot of creativity. Giancarlo Schooler, if you notice the brake tapping on the back straightaway, he didn't want to lead into the bus stop. He knew that if he could just pull off a line and fake a slowdown or something, let someone else get ahead, then he would be the one to get to the line. He didn't anticipate Johnson or I think who else was in that group? Was it Beans Forster in there? He didn't anticipate that other group getting there. He probably looked up the mirror and went, uh-oh, because that brought a whole different energy. It wasn't energy that he accounted for, and ultimately that energy almost won the race.
Well, he'd been really aggressive with those moves, and you remember, he did an outside-inside double pass to go to the front. And then I think he realized, oh, that may not have been what I wanted. And I'm not sure he was planning to go to the front. I think when he made that one move, a couple of guys maybe breathed it a little bit and said, yeah, you could be the first penguin into the shark-infested waters. We'll see how this all plays out here.
Yeah, so we learned a lot, I think, about the last lap. I just don't know if what we learned last time is going to apply to this race either. It's going to be a different group of drivers. You've got some that are on a recovery from their race 1 collision. Court Schmidt, Wan Shi Lin, they could be wild cards up in this second race. But all of these races individually count for that championship, Greg, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season. As we work our way through. This is round 7 now. We've got 3 to go. Homestead, Miami next week, then it's Road America and Sebring. So championship focus. You got to keep your head on the big picture here, especially for drivers like Camden Hibbett.
Yeah, and I mean, for him to get that little bit of help from Johnson and actually get the win when it looked like he could be back in 3rd, 4th or whatever, and Burkhardt coming up through the pack like that, that was absolutely huge. And obviously he drove it, and Hibbett drove that really smart. I never really saw him, Kyle, and I don't know if you did, really put himself at risk at any point. I saw him open the wheel up a couple of times to make sure there wasn't contact. He just had himself placed perfectly, but he comes in here 4 points now, shy of Morgan Burkhardt after having led most of the early part. They still have a 35-point lead back to Rice Pudo, Benjamin Beans Forster, Josh Soto are all back a bit. But it's tightening up, and if one or the other of them has another race like they had, one race at the Glen, this championship could be packed. And as you said, this is 7 of 10. You got to start paying attention to that and driving for the championship.
I think the other thing to consider for the second race is that Morgan Burkhardt is going to start inside the top 5. He had to start 23rd in race 1, and he got to the front, but he didn't have a lot of time to really mix things up there. The thing that I would point out is we've had races here in the past where Morgan Burkhardt got to the lead, there was a tussle behind them, and he drove off into the sunset. You cannot let Morgan Burkhardt do that. You have to keep him in the sights, and preferably in the rearview mirror as long as possible. Even if it requires being more aggressive, I think as far as the championship is concerned, you have to keep Morgan down at a place where you can get caught up with everybody else. You have to stay focused on those that you're actually racing for the title.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think what you're hoping if you're a Camden Hibbett is that where he starts back in the order a little bit, even though he came from dead last to the front. Closer you get to the front, as we saw Morgan have to deal with here, the tougher those passes get, and they're really hoping that a few people shut the door here and there, and just kind of keep Morgan at bay, because when he goes hunting, it's a tough thing for the other pack to deal with. Track temps with that cloud cover you talked about dropping off, that's going to help.
Yeah, and I also noticed that the wind was picking up a bit. I know it's dropping at the moment, but it was gusting up to 12, 13 miles an hour. So when you consider, these long straightaways, the direction the wind is coming from on cars like this will have an impact. See it again growing there out of the northeast. So would that be headed off into NASCAR 1, Greg? You're going to have to help me out with the orientation of this place, but it could be important.
Yeah. I mean, at NASCAR 1, when you look at the layout of the track, basically that front straight runs east to west, and so NASCAR 1, absolutely, there you see it. You are looking at the eastern side, so you're going to get those big gusts on the background there, and if it's coming from the east, you're going to get a big push into NASCAR 1, as you said.
Yeah, so that's something to consider. I'll be honest, drivers don't really pay attention to wind in iRacing all that much. The only time that people really note that is when we head to Indianapolis for the 500 in iRacing and qualifying. People pay attention to the wind, but it's not something that I've trained myself to look at. I'm sure it's not something that's on these drivers' agendas is to look at the wind, but it will impact you. So if you were a driver that noticed it, you might have an upper hand here.
Yeah, I think so. And, obviously, we've seen that just that little bit of damage to the front of the cars. If you got, a wind you're driving into, it's going to exacerbate that, make it even, more difficult. If it's a tailwind, it'll actually help you a little bit. So all those little things, you've got to be thinking about it here, because the pack is so equal and everybody is so good up at the sharp end of things. The one thing we really haven't talked about is how, the difference between the International Horseshoe and the West Horseshoe is the International Horseshoe is a lot tighter. When you get to that turn, when you come out of that 1-2 swoop, it's pretty snug. Once you get there, it's a true hairpin. The other one, it folds back on itself, but you can see how tight it is there when you look at it. And then when you get over to turn 5 there, the West Horseshoe, it's a lot more open, so you can roll more speed through there. So, even at a first blush, they look a little bit similar. They're not. And look at turn 6. That is the very definition of an increasing radius corner, and one that gives you massive amounts of grip once you hit that banking.
Another corner that I never really realized the layout of until you look at it from above is that the Le Mans chicane. The entrance and then the exit are very different. The whole chicane, that parallel piece that runs parallel to the oval section, actually points towards the infield. And if you look at from the drone here, you can see on the very top right of the screen how the track aims you towards Lake Lloyd, and that turn out of the bus stop is actually pretty challenging to get right. And setting that up is one of those critical factors in winning the race here. So we saw that in this last race, but it was kind of a mess down there because there were so many cars in that mix that I don't think Giancarlo's strategy really played out. It might have if there was only 3 cars, but all of a sudden there was 5.
Well, during the race, if people are watching, the guys that get through there really well are the ones that get that weight transfer just perfect. They turn in, and then you'll just see the nose, it just gets pointy, and they get the weight right where they need it, and it just changes direction beautifully for them, and then they can feed throttle. If you get in and you can't get that nose to point, now you got to get way off of the throttle, or you're going to push. Either way, you're going to be slow out. So it's tricky, and that used to be a much tighter exit. It used to really tighten up and come back. So they've opened it up, made it a lot more flow oriented right now than it used to be, but it sure provides a lot of fun. And race 2, 20 minutes, about to get underway. Barney has the flag aloft, and we're green, and we've got the 2 black machines of Winter Hibbett and Janson on his right. And look at this really aggressive move earlier, an attempt anyway. And look at Janson drifted over there to try and block Soto, but he missed a gear or something, and he just got tagged by Piatek.
Yeah, Rowan Gill tried to shoot the middle 3 wide. He made up a bunch of spots. I think Trace Hance got shuffled off to the right. Much more successful trip through turn 1 that time. And that was Forster that took tires to the grass there, leaving turn 2 or 3 wide into the International Horseshoe.
Now, this is just everybody just be a little bit smart here, get through here, get things settled, and then everybody can stay in this and have some fun at this stage, and they're doing a nice job. Boy, this has gone completely contrary to the normal MO of the second race of this series. It's usually the second one where all hell breaks loose.
Well, the race is still young, isn't it?
Well, it's young, but at least it wasn't first 2 corners mess.
Yes, that is true. That was
but there's a lot of lap yet to go in there.
Yeah. Janson dropped to 4th. He was 2nd, leaving the International Horseshoe, so he's tucked into line. Piatek got shuffled back here a bit. And Nathan Nicholson might have something to prove after getting kind of tangled with Rowan Gill in race 1. I think he'd like another go at this here. And he's right ahead of the driver, Rowan Gill, that he tangled with in that first race.
Yeah, it's Hayden Manis in that gray and white car splitting the 2 of them. And, the one we know, Nathan Nicholson is very fast. And we know Rowan Gill is equally fast. Rowan, I think, is the guy who's a little bit more elbows out, aggressive, given any opportunity. So, it's always fascinating to see how that's going to play out here. But right now, Giancarlo Schooler with that little bit of a lead.
Whoa,
Ooh,
Nicholson way
wide.
offline. That's going to be tough to recover, but somehow he did that. I think Manis might have gotten a cut course there at the exit of the bus stop, though. Very easy to get one there. And he's trying to serve it, and I think, it looks like Nicholson got one too.
Oh, they both did. Okay. Yeah, well, Nicholson, I don't know what happened. I wonder if he just got bumped or somebody moved suddenly. And great read there by Nicholson. Yeah, let's see what happened here coming in.
Oh, he might have gotten it right there, a tap
there
from.
Was.
Ooh, wow, that was a great recovery, actually. Now, you can just miss the chicane. You'll have to give up some time, and there's a tire bundle you have to navigate, so sometimes it's just better to try to make it.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see the cut course by Manis is on the left, and by Nicholson it's going to be on the right here.
Yep.
That's where the cut courses were.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if
trouble.
you watch,
turn 1.
Wozencroft and Hayden Manis.
Yep, so from one replay to another, let's check out what happened this time.
Stuff going everywhere here. Down into 1.
It's 3 wide.
Tricky here.
Again, not aware that they were 3 abreast and they're just getting tangled together. The track narrows. I mean, it's so wide on the straightaway, and then all of a sudden, turn 1, it's flat, narrow, and hard to slow down.
Yeah, I think Trace Hance took a hit too, and that's a shame. See what he's going to be dealing with here. Oh, look at this, so close coming out. Oof. Look there, John Reyes. Boy, they are elbows out. That's Nicholson trying to work his way back through.
Almost touched wheels into the braking zone. Can say from experience, not a fun place to touch wheels at Daytona.
I can imagine.
Done it.
And there in the background lurking is Wan Chi Lin there, who is so good. And I think, you know, he talked about it at the Glen. He was really starting to get a handle, he thought, on this car. And then we come to some place that, as Monty Python would say, you know, something completely different to try and figure that car out at. Meanwhile, Schooler, Burkhardt, just hanging in there with Hibbett just in that right spot, sitting there in third. And I did want to make a note, Kyle. After that moment in the bus stop with Nicholson, when both he and Manis got the slowdowns, did you see the minute that Nicholson's slowdown ended, how he dropped and got an immediate tow? And it took him right past. That was just a great read on what was happening. He was waiting for that.
Yeah, you have to, because the momentum, if you kill it leaving the bus stop, you're never going to get it back. And if you drop out of the draft, it's game over. So Nicholson rebounded enough to stay in the draft for another group of cars. And there is enough draft in the top 10 that he could, in theory, leapfrog his way all the way back up to this lead gap. The biggest gap at the moment is between Piatek and Forster. That's 1 second between 7th and 8th. But look at this, 2 by 2 by 2.
Yeah, and that black car with the bright yellow hood is Ethan Lampe, and he is quick. Look at this move by Soto. Man, this guy loves to send it. And let's see if he's gonna, look at that. Burkhardt goes to the lead around Schooler. And does Soto hang on to second here, or is it going to be Giancarlo as they come out? It's going to be Giancarlo Schooler, and Hibbett suddenly fourth, now maybe fifth, as Lampe following through here.
Soto trying to keep the overlap there, but he got pinched right at the apex. But this is the dangerous thing. If you got battling for second and Burkhardt out front, he's going to take advantage of that opportunity. But Schooler sees it.
Sorry about that. Did you just see what Hibbett did? It was brilliant. One, it was self-preservation, and two, he just arced. Look at this, ran an incredibly wide line, lost no speed, and he was worried about getting hit, and he never got hit, and he picked up at least a spot doing it, maybe two. Yeah, that was brilliant.
Great driving there, and he's back to third now as Soto and
was
Lampe.
it, fifth to third. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Side by side here into turn 6. Lampe pulls ahead again, and Soto, wasn't he battling for the lead at turn 1? Now he's P5. That's how fast
he sure was.
Things can change.
Yeah, John Sohn sitting right there in that 6th spot. Piatek, Forster.
John Sohn is a driver that we absolutely need to keep a magnifying glass on, because, like I said, he's got tons of experience at this track in MX5 racing, whether it's the Global Series or otherwise. And all of the decisions he made in the last half a lap were pro moves. I mean, those are the decisions that you have to plan in advance. And he saw it all coming. He had it all mapped out. And the only thing that kept him from winning that race was that he didn't have the track position to really be in position for it. But all the decisions were great. And I think even though he's running 6th, I would be surprised if he wasn't on the podium in this next race as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think he started the last lap of the previous race in 5th.
Right.
And ended up 2nd. So you're absolutely right. Just because he's sitting in 6th, there's still a lot of race yet to go here. And, to me, the guys that are going to be the real wild cards in this, we know Giancarlo Schooler has come to race the way he's been making those moves. But Ethan Lampe, we know he's got speed. And, he doesn't want to mess with the championship, but he'd sure like to get a win. And look at this big move. Hibbett deciding time to go, at least to get up a little bit closer to his teammate, Morgan Burkhardt. And now there's 3 of them because Giancarlo Schooler is part of that PRG team, too.
Well, Schooler throttled up pretty early and got a nice run on Burkhardt here. Lampe's got overlap with Camden Hibbett, but I think Josh Soto is right behind, so he's got to be careful where he sticks his nose.
Look at this pack. Look at Nathan Nicholson diving down to the inside and got by on Forster. And I think Forster had to open the wheel up and just tapped Piatek as a result. That was a very aggressive, decisive. When you make a move, make it decisive.
I think what he saw there was everyone kind of queuing up to take the corner. They're all braking kind of nose to tail and leaving some performance on the table because everyone right here is kind of riding. And he saw that and said, all right, well, I'll just break 2 corner markers later and drive in there deeper and make the pass. Got a little squeeze there because all of a sudden they found themselves 3 wide. But, he's just reading the road and realizing that everyone ahead of him is not really in a hurry, and he's got to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the key, isn't it? After where he needs to sort of pull off a Burkhardt here
A little bit,
because he was back in the he wasn't at the back of the pack like Morgan was, but he's still got to do that. But look what Burkhardt's doing. He's got himself a half-second lead already here. And Hibbett and Schooler have got to just say, look, no fighting, man. Let's just go.
Yeah, and they've had trouble running him back down. They're still easily within drafting range here, but anytime anyone else got a half-second lead, it didn't last very long, and you just can't afford. We've just seen it time and time again with Morgan. If you give him the lead and then you scrap for second, see ya, game over.
Yeah, and did you just see Jean Reyes, I think, just scrub the wall, trying to break for the bus stop as well, so he had himself a little bit of a moment. That's going to cost him on the exit. Right there.
Yep.
Just gave it a boom, and that really is going to give Wan Shi a nice run on him.
This is a fun sequence to line up just right, but when you get it wrong, man, it is so not satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. And did you see how much tighter Wan Shi's line was that time through than Reyes was, and that's why he got it. But look at this now, right back at it again. Hibbett to the front, momentarily anyway. It's side by side again. Whoa! Giancarlo Schooler, I could have sworn he just shoved Morgan all the way through that turn, and Morgan held onto it, kept it straight.
Yeah, he did, but now side by side, this is critical here. If they don't sort this out, it won't take very long for Morgan to drive back away again. So at the International Horseshoe, someone's got to give. I think it's going to be Giancarlo Schooler. Camden Hibbett to second.
Yeah, Camden to second, and again, you got to watch out for Ethan Lampe there in that white, the black car with that bright yellow hood. He is, he had problems in that first race, but he is in really good position here at this stage. And he's got a little bit of a margin, just a tick less than half a second back to Soto. Well, and as I say that is just evaporated. And
Nicholson and Piatek, I don't think they're going to be comfortable back here in 7th and 8th.
No.
Next time by is lap 6 of 9, so it's going to be start to be when you try to sort out where you want to be for those last lap and a half or last 2 laps. You can't wait till the last lap to be third. You got to be in position and strike when the iron's hot here.
Basically, we've got a 13-car train for the lead here. It's just extraordinary here. I mean, right now, the top 13 are covered by 2.5 seconds. Look at that. Yeah, that's not a lap car in the bunch.
No, and the only significant gap there is Greenfield back to Reyes. That's 1.9. And everyone else behind that still in drafting distance. Oh, that was dicey, wasn't it?
Yeah. Again, well, look at this pack streaming down. Now watch for that little rotation. There it is. You just see how when you get that right and the car pivots a little bit, it just makes it so easy to drive that little bit tighter line through there, straighten out the exit.
Now, I guess we got a little bit lucky when iRacing redid the curbing there. They don't have the those white, I guess they're resin inserts that make those curbs a bit taller. They're just the yellow ones, so they're pretty smooth down there, and you can really liberally use all the curbing and not have any trouble with it. That could have been a lot worse. There's also a NASCAR configuration of this where they've got those god-awful sausage curbs if you want to leap through there at 120, but we'll skip those.
Yeah, not in these cars. Oh, this is going to get really dicey. There's Ethan going for it inside Hibbett now, Kyle.
Yeah, that's a big move there for Lampe. If he can pull through and split these teammates up, that would be a big move. And Soto's back in the mix there.
Ooh, nudge.
Whoa, a little side by side.
And Hibbett nudges him back.
Touching mirrors, and this is just going to heat everyone up, raise those blood pressures just a bit. Not what you need with 7.5 to go.
No, not what you need to, and you don't need to be grinding on each other when Morgan Burkhardt's in front.
No, definitely not. But
it's a bad plan, start to finish. But Hibbett was clearly not well pleased with Lampe giving him the shoulder.
No, and just clinical on his face right now. He is at work.
Yeah.
Lost half a second in that tussle there, and then this group is getting pretty spicy. Forster's in the middle of it now, and Rowan Gill's back here as well. Yeah,
he's right in this mix. They've dropped Deacon right there, the blue nose green car a little bit. There's that great heel and toe from Beans.
Outside.
Love watching him work that.
That's a tough spot. See Piatek get real close in that left side monitor.
Yeah. Well, Piatek, that's the line. If you remember from the first race, he ran that way wide line a couple of times to pretty good effect. And I wonder if Beans did say, well, if it works for him, it works for me.
I always hit the wrong zoom. I want zoom, not me, to put my dumb face on screen. But this is great to watch. You know, he's in line right now. He's got Piatek ahead of him. And he's probably going to have to lift here slightly before he'd like to because of the braking zone. So off the throttle, you see him lift, then the brakes. Just a tap to light the brake lights up so that Gill doesn't rear end him. That's a great strategy that I employ in endurance races, Greg. Lap one, turn one. Just give the pedal a little pressure just to light the brake lights up so that no one runs into you as soon as you start slowing down.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, you can see Beans grin there, and I think the reason he grinned, it was a chagrined grin, for lack of a better term, because Piatek got through that chicane incredibly well. Just absolutely straight-lined it to perfection and opened up a little bit of a gap here, but here we come. Oh, and Lampy, like we said, he's going to be our interloper wild card here, trying to get a side draft, work the outside here.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the side draft attempt because that typically only really works if there's a spoiler or a wing to dump air onto. These cars don't have that, but it didn't seem to not work. He made up a little bit of ground on the Hibbett like that, so it's something to note. And by the way, the side draft...
Look at Giancarlo Schooler here. Sorry.
Yeah, he is here. The side draft does work in iRacing. The efficacy drastically depends on what car you're in. I imagine that this isn't a strongly utilized car in that respect, but a couple things that iRacing models aerodynamically: side draft, typical to your nose to tail draft, as well as drag from the wall as well, and that cushion of air that you would get if you're riding the wall up at Darlington. That's all modeled as well, so something to consider in these cars when you're right up against the fence.
That's pretty impressive, that they've got it down to that level of minutia, but it's all critical stuff. And guess who's in the top 5? A guy named Nicholson.
Yeah,
he has really put in a drive here.
Oh, there's a crash in the background, though, and that's John Reyes and Gareth Nyland. They have tangled.
Yeah. Looks like they're both going to be able to continue. I don't know what kind of damage they have.
Looks like the 29 just had a run and thought a door would open, and it just never did.
Yeah.
They both will continue, but down the order.
And this has flown by. We're at 4.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, 2 laps next time by the stripe, and that's when the chess master, what do they call them, grandmasters, start making their chess moves.
There you go, yep. And here, just a look out, see what would happen here.
Oh, motor for Camden Hibbett.
Oh, my goodness.
That is catastrophic for Camden Hibbett, and the frustration is just going to be unreal.
And that's all part of how tricky those down changes are.
Yeah, just over-revved it a bit too high, and he's going to finish. There's a lot of cars running, so he's going to be scored way down the order in this one. Big opportunity for Morgan Burkhardt.
Yes, it is. And now I think, these guys are going to, we have got to figure out a way to get to him here.
2 to go.
Here we go, and there's Nicholson giving a big push to Giancarlo Schooler, but Lampy diving down to the inside, and he might try and double him up here. Can't get it. Oh, and Schooler got a little sideways there, saved it, but he's going to lose a lot of momentum.
Yeah, drop a couple of spots. That leaves Lampy in command of this second pack, and now Josh Soto into third. And part of me thinks that this group isn't organized enough to run Burkhardt back down 9/10 of a second. This is exactly what we thought might happen if second becomes a battle and Burkhardt leads.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, Lampy and Nicholson, they're not in this championship. Soto is sort of. But those guys, and Giancarlo Schooler, they just want to win. And, what they have to figure out now is we've got to figure out a way to get back to him and have a shot at this, because as you've talked about, Kyle, one thing that Morgan Burkhardt does when he gets that little bit, if he can break the draft, he's gone.
Well, you're not going to get a second shot. 1.1 seconds. It's going to take every minute of the last lap and a half to get back there, and a lot of it's going to have to happen on these straightaways here. So Soto and Lampy better be aligned in their mission here. And Nathan Nicholson is a teammate to the leader. That's something to consider as well, but it doesn't do him a lot of good to sit here in fourth, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is we're going to know pretty quick when these guys have decided that they're not going to catch Burkhardt, because I think all hell's going to break loose in this battle for second here. But they still have a shot. I mean, hopefully they know that. They just really have got to work together here. And so far, so good. Here comes Nicholson. If he can join them, that'll be a big help.
And Morgan's going to have to drive pretty perfect here to outrun these drivers. Again, they're a full second back now. They could be a half second back by the time they get to the stripe. But just looking at the times, and Soto's got to slow down. That's going to hurt Lampy big time.
Yep, sure is.
So
now he doesn't have a partner. Nicholson's too far back. He's over a half second to drift.
Yeah, Lampy's almost close enough to get draft there off the leader. I think he's close enough to just get a sniff, but it's only, I mean, if he doesn't stay within a second, it's going to be tough to run him back down without help. White flag, Greg, last lap.
Here we go. One more to go here at Daytona. And can they do it? That's the question. 7/10 right now. So he's there. And just carry a bit more speed, roll some good speed here. He's got that, it went up to 8/10 here, but he's in the window, Kyle, at least.
He's there. I think if he can be within a half a second into the bus stop, you're in good shape. But much more than that, it's going to be pretty tough. 8/10 of a second now as they round the International Horseshoe, and Lampy's got no real assistance yet. He won't until we get to the straightaway, so he's going to just have to outdrive Burkhardt here in the infield.
Well, he's good. There's no question to that, but we know how good three-time champ Morgan, they call him the kid, Burkhardt. He doesn't sound like a kid when he talks.
Rowan Gill, big lunge there on Piatek.
Well, at this stage, they're going, look, you know, we're not going to likely have any shot at the win unless something massive happens. So let's settle these top 5 spots.
Burkhardt just murdered Lampy for the last couple of corners.
Yeah, he did.
Gained a couple of tenths, but still within slight distance here. Nicholson, if Nicholson gives Lampy a shove and Morgan messes up the bus stop, there's still an opportunity. But Morgan has just executed to perfection, and this is what he does best at a place like Daytona.
Yes, this is his forte. You get out where you clear the draft a little bit and then just drive qualifying laps, and he can just do it and just not make any mistakes. His ability to be, repetitively perfect is pretty phenomenal here.
Last run through the bus stop here. It's all about this run. Pretty nice line there for Lampy. Is it enough? 9/10 of a second back. Nice gain on exit. He's going to have no help. I just don't think he's going to have the time to get there, but it's a long way to go.
Oh boy, this is fascinating stuff.
8/10, 7/10.
If Nicholson could have been a little closer, that would have been a hell of a help here, but I don't think it's going to happen, Kyle.
No, I don't think so either. 6/10. It's going to be down to half a second, but they needed more. But Morgan Burkhardt has done it, Greg, again at Daytona.
Unbelievable, coming from dead last up into, and a late move by Nicholson. Did he get it?
I don't think so. Nope. I think Lampy got it still.
No, Lampy got it, but not by much. Yeah, but Morgan just so good here, carries so much speed, and he had to come from dead last in the first race to give himself a good finish, and then does what he does here. But we got some great battles going on here. This is a beauty here. Jose De Las Casas in the Barbie car.
Andrew Gilliland trying to beat him to the line. This is for 16th.
Oh, what a drag race this is. Jose's got the shorter run. Oh, and a touch!
Gilliland gets it.
I think it was Gilliland, but it couldn't have been by much more than a thousandths or so.
4 thousandths. How about that?
Wow, how about that?
That was close.
Incredibly good.
Just gave the nod there since you saw that P16 was picked up. Morgan Burkhardt, though, doing what he does. I mean, started last, or not last, but pretty close to it in the first race. Drove up to a pretty respectable finish in race 1, and then race 2 gets to the lead, and man, it is hard to pull it away from him once he's got it.
Yeah, it really is. Now he's just burning off those rears, doing a little celebrating, and knowing, and obviously he and Hibbett, their other teammates, they race hard with each other, but they like to, race head to head, and to have Hibbett have that problem. Morgan, obviously a big opportunity in the points, but I'm sure he hates to do it that way. But how about Ethan Lampy, Nathan Nicholson, both had major problems in that first race, Kyle. Come home second and third.
Yeah, nice results for them, and a great rebound for those drivers. And I'm sure they'll be happy with that, although I think Ethan and Nicholson would have liked a better shot. But it all came down when Camden Hibbett blew the motor into the bus stop. It just kind of borked everybody's runs, and it just took too long to reassemble.
Well, and I've got a question for you because you're obviously a lot more knowledgeable on the iRacing thing. Would it have been wise maybe for Ethan to just breathe it for a second, let Nathan get right to him?
It might have, but I think his thought was he was just on the edge of having draft from Morgan. So I think he was considering, hey, maybe I can draft to Morgan rather than with assistance from Nathan. But that does work. I just don't know that they had enough time for that to work. So,
well, that's a good point too. Yeah,
it was just a tough scenario, and you just have to stay bunched up when things are. You got a driver out front like Morgan that can just execute. His last lap was a 2:19.3. It was 0.2 slower than Ethan Lampy, and Nathan Nicholson ran a 2:18.7. So he was a half a second faster, but just not close enough to take advantage of it.
Yeah, Rowan Gill had a 2:18.7, as did Beans Forster. So that draft, that just tells you all you need to know right there. And another guy to shout out here is Wenshi Lin. Remember, he had problems in that first race with that wreck, had to come through the pack and finds himself in 10th. And then that battle we had with Deacon Greenfield, Hayden Manis, John Reyes was absolutely superb.
Yeah, that was pretty fun to watch. Andrew Oilercroft comes home in 14th. Andrew Gill in a tight battle. Look at that. Minus 33.882, minus 33.886, 4 1,000ths between Gillen and Jose de las Casas for 16th place. What a battle.
Yeah, it was. That was fantastic. Over Court Schmidt, I don't know that that's going to be much salt for the wound after qualifying 11th for that first race, getting taken out, and then fighting his way back only to 20th. But I'll tell you, again, Daytona, it is just an absolutely incredible strategic battle, and nobody plays that game ultimately better than Morgan Burkhardt.
Yeah, Camden Hibbett down in 25th place.
25th, that's big.
Yeah, that's big news because the driver that he's battling in the championship won that race. That's almost as big of a point swing as you're going to get, Greg. So that's a big hit to the number. What number? 132 that he's going to have to come up with.
And the other guy there, Owen Watts, another problem in this second race. But boy, if he can stay clean, we've seen immense speed from him. It's going to be fun to see what he can do for these remaining 3 rounds of the championship.
I would say so. Now, we've got a couple drivers waiting for us to chat with. One of them is Beans Forster. We've got Camden Hibbett, Morgan Burkhardt. Let's chat with Beans, though. Wasn't in the podiums either race, but it's always a fun chat, so we'll chat with them. Actually, I dragged Camden by accident, so we'll start there. Camden, I know race 2 didn't exactly go the way that you were hoping. P25 after the motor expired there. Frustrating way to end, I know, for you, but race 1 obviously was great. So as you look at this as a whole, as an event week, not great, not amazing. Whoop, you're muted there, Camden. There you are.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted in the other Discord channel.
Yep.
No, when I went down to shift from 5th to 4th, my shifter double shifted. So it went to 3rd, 4th, and then right to 3rd. So not the way we wanted to end the week, but it is what it is. I guess positive race 1, I guess, with the win. Huge shout out to Aaron for the push. Would not have won it without him for sure. So that was awesome. But yeah, no, not the race, not really the week I was looking for. I guess it's kind of, we'll see how it plays out on points. I think this will be my second drop, I guess, for the season. I missed a race earlier in the season. I think it was Middo. So I guess this will be my second drop of the season, and I guess we'll go see what we can do. I think we're at Road America next week, which will be another chaotic race. So it should be fun.
Well, you're right. It is going to be absolutely chaotic there. I love what you said about Aaron. I made a comment during the race that at the end that he just went to the top of your Christmas card list with that. It looked like you were well placed again in that second race until that problem. Were you obviously strategizing? Did you think up until that moment that you were in a good spot?
No, I was in a great spot. I loved where I was, and I was definitely comfortable riding right behind Morgan, and I was just gonna ride there until we got to the white flag, and then kind of play out from there. I was super happy with where I was. Race 2 was going really well. Struggled to keep Ethan behind me at some times. I wanted to try and stay second. That was tough at a couple of times, but no, I was in a great spot, and just unfortunate that the shifter had to pick this race of all races to kind of make a little mess up. But all good, it's racing. We'll move on to next week.
Yeah, well, and that first race, I mean, you played that to absolute perfection. Obviously got that little bit of help, but, well done. Hate to see what happened, but I'll tell you what, right now you and Morgan are putting on one cat and mouse battle here for this championship. Loving every minute of it.
Yeah, it should be fun. I don't know where the points have shaken out. I know I think I finished 8th or something last week at Watkins Glen, so not the greatest week last week, and probably going to be a drop this week, but I think it's still going to cycle out to be really close in points. I know the weeks that I've had good runs have been pretty strong, so we'll see. It should come down to the wire, I think. I think we got, 3 or 4 races left in this season, so yeah, it should be an interesting finish, and I think me and Morgan have almost started to run away with it in the points championship, so it's going to be a 2-car race for the rest of the season, I think.
I think so, and I got to say, you had an amazing save yourself move around the outside at the exit of the International Horseshoe that ended up into a double pass. You read that beautifully. That was so fun. I know you got to get going, but just wanted to point that out, man. As always, just fun to watch you race.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for all you do for the broadcast. An awesome broadcast every single time. I go back and watch it every week, try and learn something. And it's a great show every single week. So thank you guys.
Appreciate it, Camden. Thank you. All right, let's see. Who we want to chat with next? How about Olivier Piatek, who was in the midst of all of that chaos, especially race 1. P6 for you in race 1. P6 in both races, actually, is where you panned out, Olivia. So tonight you were in the midst of it, had some damage at some points, had some car contact, but take us through your evening there before 2 top 10s.
Not my strongest day, honestly. We're already out of the championship, so I'm just kind of having fun. Race 1, last lap, I thought me and Morgan would both go below the yellow line and get, to lead, but Morgan just didn't go with me, and I kind of got caught sleeping there, so I went from what could have been a win all the way down to P6. And then race 2, I got a really good start, and Aaron just broke a little earlier than expected. I mean, it's not on him, it's on me, but I just next to him the checkups early, and I got front end damage, and from there you can't really do much at a track like Daytona, so I just kind of sit in the back of the pack waiting for something, and it just never came.
Well, I'll tell you what, Olivier, you were living up to the title sponsor of this series name a few times, man. You were going full send into 1 and into 6, and it was fun to watch, and it seemed to work for you.
Yeah, it worked well. Just didn't have the luck in the end of the day, which is what matters the most in a car like this.
Absolutely. Well, it's always a blast to watch you race and to be able to call it, man. Thanks for the great show you put on for us.
See you next week.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, now let's talk to Beans if we can get a hold of him. Here's Beans Forster, P8 in race number 2, race 1, P7. Beans right in the thick of it. That was a fun race to watch. You had some great battles there amongst your fellow competitors there. Take us through your night at Daytona. It was pretty wild out there at times.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. I had the entry speeds going into the corners. It's a lot different with having the sun out, not having any cloud coverage. I felt like I had to brake way earlier than I normally do when we race here, and I discovered that way too late. So race 1, I kind of ruined my front tires a little bit, and then with the scraping on the front bumper and the new damage model, it just killed me in the draft. So I had good pace, but I mean, I salvaged what I could. Effectively P6 in points in the second race because of the fastest lap. So I'll take what I can, and I'm doing all right.
Well, that's some serious. We were stunned in that first race how early the elbows came out. It was some really aggressive racing going on back there.
Yeah, I qualified a lot further back than I kind of normally would. I was trying to work with Court and Trace and Jim to get kind of the group up towards the front. We did a good job with that. So just kind of salvaged what I could with qualifying kind of towards the back of the top 10.
Yeah, well, great to watch, and you're getting some very special congratulations there for a great weekend as well.
Always a winner over here.
There you go. And as always, love the foot cam, man. Thanks so much for that.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Beans. All right, Nathan Nicholson, P3 in race number 2, and what a rebound after getting shuffled back in race 1. And Nathan, you charged to the front there at the end, but just didn't have enough position to either get to Ethan or to push him to a potential win against Morgan. But you had a pretty fun evening. At least you were side by side a lot of the time, and it was pretty exciting. Take us through your perspective of this evening.
Yeah, man. I mean, whenever you go to these tracks with these cars, no roofs and huge draft tracks, it never disappoints. So you can be anywhere, and as long as you position yourself right and take advantage of the right opportunities, you'll be right in the fight. So, race 1 got into an incident. that was just kind of misjudged by everyone. Race 2, just stuck in the fight. Was there at the end and picked up the podium, which was pretty good. The drafting's a little weird in these cars, so just wasn't able to get to Ethan when I wanted to push him up or make the pass. But it was fun out there.
Well, and you were doing it with a little bit of damage on the front. With this new damage model, apparently we're hearing that it really affects the draft. Do you think, because I had posed this to Kyle, if Ethan had breathed it for just a second to let you get there, that then the two of you maybe would have had something for Morgan?
Yeah, if he did, it would have had to been as soon as Soto got the penalty. Whenever he pulled off, that gap was just too much. By the time I closed in, we were hardly able to work together. Now, if he did it on the banking the next lap, I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. It's weird in iRacing, you gain more time sucking up to someone than what you do like when we consider like you're in the bubble. Even in MX5 Cup and stuff like that, there is a little bit of a bubble there where you can stay linked up together. So I don't know if it would have made that much difference unless it was immediate, and that's a really hard decision to make going on to the longest straightaway on the track. So don't blame him on that one at all.
No, not at all. Well, I'll tell you what, I love watching you race. It was great to watch you fight back in this one, and you've been a great addition to this championship. I hope we see a lot more of you, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Nathan. All right, Morgan Burkhardt. Man, again, as I said earlier, death taxes Morgan Burkhardt in position at the end of a Daytona race. Race 1, you spent the entire time charging your way through the field to finish 5th in a pretty chaotic result. But race 2, you got to the lead, chaos behind you, and you just waved goodbye, Morgan. Tell us, what makes you so good at driving away from the pack when they're racing like that?
Well, that's a really hard question to answer. Actually, got me on the spot here. I would say it's not just pure pace in driving away. A lot of what I do, and I probably really shouldn't be saying this, but a lot of what I do is I force the people behind me to fight so that they go side by side through a corner or two, and then I can get to 7 to 8 tenths of a lead. And at that point, the draft doesn't really work as well as it does at 6 to half a second back. And at that point, I can just kind of turn on the jets and push really hard for 5 corners. And if I can get it to 2 tenths, then it's a lot easier to break away because it's kind of like not a logarithmic. It's an exponential curve in the draft. So at a second back, you'll get just like 0.2 or 0.3 of a mile an hour. At 9 tenths back, you'll get a mile an hour. At 8 tenths back, you'll get a mile and a half, and then it just keeps increasing from there. So it's get people to fight and try and just push really hard for 5 corners. And if that doesn't work, you try it again the next lap. And I think now that if you look back at that broadcast, they were side by side in turn 1 for 3 or 4 laps straight. And every time I did that, I'd get to 6 or 7 tenths. It would be like 1 tenth more every single lap. And it takes a while just to get up there. But once I got there and they started fighting, and I think Josh got a slowdown in the bus stop, or there was some mishaps in the bus stop, and I knew turn 1 wasn't going to work, so I tried it in the bus stop, and that ended up getting me 8 tenths to 9 tenths of a second, and was able to just kind of maintain from there. I knew I wasn't going to be able to break away because it's Daytona, and I'm going to lose 4 tenths per straight anyways. But I found out early on that if I had a half a second leaving the bus stop on the last lap, I would be fine at the line.
Well, and you get through the bus stop so incredibly well, and when you get that little break, I mean, you basically just go out and drive two or so qualifying laps, and your ability to do that, we've seen that. What I want to ask is, how do you come from near dead last in the field and fight your way all the way up to contend at the front and still have any tire left to be able to race with? That's you probably don't want to be giving that one away either, but it sure is impressive, Morgan.
Well, we're giving away secrets already, so it's another one. First of all, qualifying in the back was not the plan, and it was severely miscalculated on my part in qualifying. Every lap that I did, I would try and, I led the pack around, I'd try and be in the pack, I'd get a 0x or 1x on the lap, and you only get 4 tries at it because the track is so long. But I ended up starting at the back, and it's all about balancing brake pressure versus ABS activation. So if you are on the ABS under braking, A, it's going to generate heat, and B, you're not going to slow down as well. But the big thing is that if you're trying to turn with ABS on, you're going to generate even more heat, and that just kills the tire life. So if you can do that without generating so much heat, and you can really carry the tire for like half an hour when you only need it for 20 minutes. So that was the big thing. And plus, I think you could really only go from 27th, like the back of the pack, to the front of the pack, and still have some tire left at a track like this, because the tire has so much time to cool down on banking.
Well, and that's a good point too, but it's interesting. So, you're braking just short of full ABS.
Yes.
And that's, but that makes sense, because obviously that's is a huge heat generator. So, well, it sure worked to great effect in that first race. Camden had made the point that if it weren't for Aaron Genzone giving him that little push, he might not have got to the win. But obviously, big win for you in the second one, with Camden struggling. Obviously, there are drops to be factored in, but this is sure looking mano a mano for you guys here.
I think so. I think I think we've broken away from the pack pretty good, so it's going to be difficult for anybody else to run us down. But at this point, I've got a little bit of a breather, so I don't have to go out and win the rest of the races. I don't have to go out and finish at all costs the highest that I can. I mean, this race was qualifying 27th. Obviously, it was like, I have to put my head down. I've got to go, because I can't really afford a bad race here, and ended up being able to. So it's fortunate for me that Camden had a motor go, but I think it's going to be interesting. I don't remember. I think it was 3 rounds left to go this season.
Yep.
Yeah, after this. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 rounds left to go. It's going to be difficult. I think I'm definitely in the more advantageous position. Camden's got to go out and he's got to perform for the next 6 races, and I only have to finish right behind him. So I only have to do as well as Camden does. So I'm definitely in the less pressure seat, but it's going to be interesting. There's a lot that can happen. I was really worried about Daytona, because the track is so long, the draft is so heavy, that anything can happen. But now that we've got through this one, the rest of the season shouldn't be anywhere near as explosive, but just explosive in different ways.
Yeah, well said there. Again, man, just an absolutely great drive in that first race, and a perfectly judged win here in the second one. Well played.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys next week.
You got it.
Thanks, Morgan.
Speaking of next week.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
We got a fun one upcoming. This schedule is a spectacular one, Greg. And
it is.
We got Homestead, Miami, so we're staying in Florida next week. But this time we're on Road Course B, which is going to be more drafting.
Yeah, I love this layout at Homestead when you use basically Speedway 3 and 4. So you come out of turn 8 up onto the track at 9, and then it's just, again, all the way around an oval, flat drafting the whole way. We've seen some amazingly good racing unfold there. Then we go to Road America, which is a very different type of track, but with such long straights, and even the twisty bits are long and fast. Huge amount of drafting there as well. So it isn't, as he said, it's not going to be as explosive as it can be here at Daytona, but it's still going to be absolutely critical. And then full track at Sebring at the end, just cause.
Sebring is consistently one of the best rounds to watch in this championship. And yeah, I mean, what a blast to watch the racing tonight. It got spicy out there. There was lots of pushing and drafting and strategy. And the grandmaster of the chess match, of course, Morgan Burkhardt, as we've seen plenty of times this season, Greg. But what a great round. And upcoming, we mentioned the last 3 rounds, but things are coming down in that championship. So it's about time to get ready and really get focused on winning that title.
Yeah, time to cinch him up and really be thinking about it here. Do want to remind everybody, next Tuesday night, we said Homestead Miami Road Course B. This Thursday night is going to be a driver's school at that very layout. So if you want a little refresher, want a little bit more coaching, whatever you might think you need, check it out. All you got to do is go to fullsendsims.com and set it up. And with that, let's wrap things up here just a little bit. Want to say, of course, a huge thank you to Court, even though he had a rough night tonight, what he does for this championship, for sim building, and for real-world racing, just bringing it all together here with Practice Makes Podium is absolutely exceptional. Big thanks to our newest sponsor, FARA, the Formula and Automobile Racing Association. great to have them on board with us. And if you can get to one of their events in person, do it. It's cheap to be able to get in. It's a lot of fun. And if you can't, remember they do stream everything on Driver's Eye Live. Then, of course, Final Turn Motorsports, Rob Greenwood, full service prep shop, Miata Tranny Builders, they do it all. Final Turn Motorsports at gmail.com. 3P Logistics, Frank Rodriguez, info at 3P-logistics with an X.com for everything that they do in wine country motorsports, the racer's resource for helmets, suits, gloves, and everything else that you might need. With that, we're going to wrap things up from here at Daytona. Big thank you, as always, to Finian DeCuna with all the work that he does in helping get those cameras laid out. And to Kyle, thanks as always, my friend. Absolutely great. I'm Greg Creamer. We'll see you next Tuesday night at Homestead.